Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much, Lord, for the way that you bless us. And in your sovereignty, Lord, you brought us here, and you have purposes in everything, Lord. And I just pray in Jesus' name, Lord, for the people who have an opportunity to see and listen to the things that we say, Lord, that it will inspire people, Wichita people, Lord, and the world around us also, Lord, to know who we are and how you made us and what plans you have for us. And we thank you for the way that you love us. And this is the day, Lord, that you have made. Every moment of our life, you make all those moments. We thank you for that. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
So my name is Derek Ross. Actually, my name is James Derek Ross, and I'm Wichita.
My name is James Warden Ross. My Wichita name is Cookie Sakits, which is Little Rabbit. I've been known as Bunny ever since the day I was born, and I relish my name and I love my name. And all my grandchildren call me Grandpa Bunny. It's cool. It's really cool to be recognized by all my family.
Can you tell us about your family? Who's your family?
I'm a full-blood, I say I'm a full-blood Waco. I'm a full-blood Wichita, but it all started with my great-grandmother, my mother's grandmother. Her name was Wackets. That was the name given to her by the government. But her Wichita name was Itskid Ahis. That's her name. That means, in English, it means suddenly she stands up, which is really a great name. We gave that to my granddaughter because that name is significant in that it means here is someone who is going to be somebody and they're going to stand up. Suddenly she stands up. So you watch out for her. That was my great-grandmother, Wackets. When she was born in 1876, the Wacos were moved from Waco, Texas to Anadarko in 1959, I believe.
1859.
I mean 1859. And she was born in 1876, so she wasn't born, she was born here. And when she has told our family, don't forget your Waco. I mean, that was a constant reminder to us, don't forget you are Waco. So we all know that. And it's kind of interesting how Derek has been gone for 19 years as a missionary, comes back, and where does he end up? Waco, Texas. And why is that? It's like we're drawn to certain places and we have no control over what's going on, but God is directing us. Our God, his name is Kinikasus, and literally I think it means man who's not on earth or something to that effect. That's who I pray to, and that keeps me going. But so I'm Kukisakits.
My name's Canon Hawadiki Shihidia Ross. So I was given by my dad. Hawadiki Shihidia means like a blessing. I'm blessed, or I can be a blessing to other people. And actually, I have seen that in my life. Like, I think I've outlived my name, because like, I think I can be a blessing to people, a blessing to my tribe, and a blessing to my family and stuff. And yeah.
All right. So we're going to start this interview, and I'm not going to be a recorder or anything. So we're just going to start this, and I think y'all want to sing a song.
Yes. So in just some background, the Waco part of the tribe was moved to Anadarko in August of 1859, And by 1874, a Muskogee man planted a church in here in Anadarko, Rock Springs Indian Baptist Church. It's the first Baptist church among Plains Indians, and it's really wonderful that it was a Muskogee man, a native guy, who reached out to the Wichita tribe. That's special to me.
Yeah.
And we have Muskogee friends even now. But and actually, it's interesting. If you listen to some of the Muskogee songs, I recently heard a Muskogee song. The words to their Amazing Grace song is actually not the words to the Anglo Amazing Grace song. The words are different. And it wasn't until I just recently, a few months ago, where my Muskogee friend shared with me the words for their Amazing Grace song. And when I heard it, because I know Wichita, I know my Amazing Grace in my language, when I heard it, I realized, oh, it's the same words. So all we did was, the melody sounds like Amazing Grace, but the words are taken from the Muskogee people, which the first line, we'll sing it in a second, but the first line is Ni Wasta Wawa. That means the spiritual leader is like a pastor. And so as you go through the song, when I heard my Muskogee friend sharing the lyrics, I was amazed. Somehow I just didn't know. It just seemed really special. And so he said, the pastor goes to heaven when he passes away. The children, they go to heaven when they pass away. The women and the men, go to heaven when they pass away. And so at the end of the song, it kind of comes around. We will all spend eternity with God in heaven, at the end of time, at the end of our time. And so when I heard that, I was like, wow, that is so great. It's a Muskogee. That's a Muskogee, even before Wichita's learned that song. And so we just wanted to sing just the first line, if we can, of that song, and I'll just start. Ni wasta wa ni soka na te ya se ai ho wa guishi na gitskari agaho tante ikya. And so, yeah, we just wanted to share that because it's meaningful, and I was reflecting yesterday that it's becoming a reality day by day as people in the Wichita tribe pass away into eternity. And so I never really thought about it until just this week, really, that's a reality, as people pass away. I just want to share that.
Thank you. So kind of tell us a little bit about Rock Springs Church and how you grew up there, and some of you talk about the relationships you built there and stuff, and why it's important.
Yeah, I was born in Gracemont and in 1941, and my mother Lorraine Warden and her sister Thelma Warden were die-hard participants in the church, along with Wackets and my grandpa Dennis Warden and my grandmother Ruby Hendricks, and so I'm just totally enveloped in Rock Springs, and Rock Springs, among other churches and other institutions in Wichita's culture, dances, churches, music are all important things because it brings people together. That's what Rock Springs did, and there's like probably a dozen families that are mainstays of Rock Springs, including my families and Wackets. And I've seen pictures of Wackets and Mary Rose Ross and Sadie Barnum Ross all standing side by side up beside the church. And When they took that picture, they were all 70 or 80 years old, and they all died 30 or 40 years ago. But that's a symbol of who we are and how we lived. And you said, the pandemic has kind of taken away 4 years away from who we are, the dances, the annual dances. And it's kind of interesting in that last night, the other night at the dance, I met people who I hadn't seen or didn't know. They were grandkids of the kids that I grew up in, the Swift family. And this girl came up and she said, my mother's Armeline Swift. And I said, wow, I know Armeline. I know Novaline, Armeline, Vera, Virgil. I said, I can go on and on. I know the grandparents, and that's what kind of makes you think about what we're missing in a 4-year period. But think about the 10 years before that, the 20 years before that, 30 years before that, 1950. What has disappeared between 1950 and 2023? 73 years. A lot has disappeared. And the main reason is, I think, is that because we don't get together like we used to. I mean, in 1601, there were 6,000 Wichitas up on the border and hundreds of grass houses. Now, that's a community. That's what we used to have. And there's a lot of theories on how that disappeared, but we're down to 3,400 now. And we're so lucky that we have that many. So that's really important. And that's what Rock Springs has done for us. The church, the tradition, the women on one side, the men on one side, the first Creek preachers preaching. My grandfather, Dennis Ward, translated Creek into Wichita, and that just brought us closer to other tribes, to the Creeks, Creek, Seminole, and Wichita Association, which is a group, a group that's been together forever. I don't know how long, but my son Derek is getting into that and realizing that we are connected. That my mother and our families all went to wherever the Creek meetings were during the summer, and I have bunches of friends that I haven't seen for 30 or 40, 50 years, with whom Derek has had a chance to meet.
Ed Mouse.
Ed Mouse, and I think I had like 4 or 5, Tony Tiger. I had 4 or 5 Creek friends that every time we go out, we call it going out east, who I would meet up with, and we would go together, and I was always included, just because I was the same age, and we just became so close, and that goes back to that period of 4-year break and being together. Now we're talking about a 50-year break of being with my Creek friends. He's meeting them, how it all comes around again, and these people show up in your life. The only thing that's different now as you grow older, being 81, and is that my selection of friends is becoming there's not a whole lot of people who can identify or talk about people that I grew up with. Stuart Owens, that was here earlier, he's a year older than me, and with him I can talk about his brother, his family, his mother, Faye Owens, my sister Anita Faye Ross was named after Faye Owens. We're all connected, and the family's connected by name. James Warden Ross, named after Dennis Warden. And course, Ross is the name that keeps appearing in all families, and it's kind of wondering. You wonder, 500 years ago, how many Rosses were there? You know, how many Lamars were there? How many Standings were there? It's just how many Wichitas were there, and how many of them were Waco? Rose told us last night that their family, the Swift family, was Tawakoni. That they're connected to Tawakoni Jim, who is one of our storied leaders, Tawakoni Jim, and it's kind of like, I didn't know that. So I'm learning stuff now from people that are 50 years younger than me that I didn't know before. Information I didn't know before that's really important. I need to know that, so that I can tell my grandsons, my granddaughters. And so Derek's learning the same thing. Now, when we see her, we know her, and so I'm learning relationships that I never knew existed before. Like Stuart says, he's a Kichai, I think, and when we were split up and we were given allotments in 1902, people chose where they wanted to live, and they chose according to all the Wacos live towards Anadarko. The Kichais all live over here. The Tawakonis live over here. So we're still divided by who we are, and the sad thing about it is that since we're assimilated, as the government says, we want to assimilate you and teach you to be American, to be English, and we didn't want that. And some people protested about that. Francis Wise. We have a lot of activists in our tribe that knew what was going on, that tried to do something about it, but it's difficult when you're dealing against the government. But there's a saying going on right now, put out by the Oklahoma legislature, the 9 words that most people hate. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help you. That's exactly what they were telling us. And little did we know that today, the 160 acres that my mom got, the 160 acres my dad got, my 160 acres that my grandma Ruby got, the 160 acres that my Dennis Warden got, the 160 acres that Wackets got, 5 times 160, what is that, 900 acres? It's gone as far as I'm concerned, So, yeah, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help you. That's really it. People don't know what that really means to Native Americans, because just like Waco was taken away from us, and Derek will tell you more about Waco. But
We're taking it back.
yeah, and we're taking it back. But that's who I am, Cookies the Kits.
I was going to say something, just a small thing, that when you said there's a lot of things that that were taken away, but it's interesting. I was born in Anadarko and grew up in Gracemont and Lawton, and got to be in Rock Springs and here the first 12, 13 years of my life, which is an important part of anyone's life. What happens in the first 10 or 15 years of the life of a person is really
formative,
really important, and so the one thing that can't be taken away, there's two things, but the one thing that can't be taken away is who you are. You're Wichita, and that can never be taken away. The other thing that's kind of connected to that even though I've been gone, I was in the Marine Corps for 6 years altogether, and then I'm a missionary in the Philippines for the last 20 years. But the interesting thing, and I haven't really been in America. Cannon grew up in the Philippines, but I haven't been in America at all really in 20 years. So not able to, really didn't have it was not possible to serve the tribe or do anything, playing catch up. But the interesting thing that also cannot be taken away is just being in and out of Anadarko the last couple of years, and every time I go to a gathering of people, a meeting, a business, celebration, anything that happens, someone will see me like Peanut. She said, "What's your name?" And I said, "My name is Derek Ross. My first name is James Ross. James Ross, Bunny Ross is my dad." And so in just a few moments, the connection, people say, "Oh," and then you get a hug. And so the relationship goes from, I don't know who this person is, to someone has their arms around you. And so that is such a beautiful thing that is Wichita, in just a few moments. Who's your Marvin Delaware is my cousin. Where did you grow up? Who's that? Oh yeah, the McAdams lived on the hill, or these people lived here. And so you can find out pretty quick, even like Walter Lamar is my uncle. And so I met Gina Lamar at my Aunt Betsy's funeral, and she shared with me Walter's number. And so for about a year and whatever, we're talking daily, and he's a big help. And so that bond over the phone or text, or the bond from a hug or a conversation here in Anadarko, is something that can't be taken away. That can't be taken away. And that's so it's not 1.4 million acres, it's not $1.4 million, but it has a greater value than that. It really has a greater value than that. That's just something I wanted to share. About Rock Springs, I don't know. I was thinking about growing up at Rock Springs. It's funny. It's a different world. It's 2023, so it's a different world today. But in the noonday, when it's hot outside, they had a pump for water. It's coming out of the ground with just a pump, and they had a milk can, like a metal milk can with a ladle in it. It's funny. So the water's cold coming out of the ground. So you would just go over there and pump it a few times and get some fresh water on the top of that, and grab that ladle. And so me and Marvin and whoever, my brother Jason, the cousins, we would all get a drink of water and then pass the ladle to the next person, and then put it back, and then someone else would walk there. And so it's funny, in 2023, if someone has a cup and they drink some water and they say, "Use this cup," no thank you, I'm not thirsty. It's just different today. And so that somehow that family, and also even church, I don't know what the outside other part of the world thinks about church, but for me, we went to church at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we were there till 11 o'clock at night. And I never thought, oh, I got to be at church. It was family. And this is my aunts, Anita and Vita, would say, "This is my Aunt Matilda." And then, and if you were a little kid, they would say, "Go, this is your Grandma Matilda," or whatever, Grandma Eleanor, "Go give her a hug," And so you're learning that community and hugging people, and this is your family, You're learning that from the beginning of your life, And so, and that's kind of made it hard as a missionary. And some people serve the tribe for 11 years. I was thinking this morning, and your life is dedicated to something, And then I've served Filipinos in Manila, across the Philippines for 20 years. And so the currency that I had to spend was not losing the connection of being Wichita, but I had to sacrifice my life in the Philippines and my son's connection to his grandfather, or our connection to our family. But being in America 2 years, it's just 30 minutes, a couple hours each time, it's like we were never gone, really. I mean, there's some growing to do, but that community thing is so valuable, even though the government and allotments and here you can have this land, or we're taking that away, we'll give you the smaller one, we'll pay you for what we, think you deserve, That's the thing that can't be taken away is your family, the community, and all those things. So into eternity, that can't be taken away.
Yeah, you said like it can't be taken away, and like even like being gone for 20 years, like coming back and like getting to hang out with my grandpa Bunny. My grandpa Bunny came down to Waco, and my grandpa Bunny reminded me the other day when I was telling him my little sister Ada and him were on the couch in our living room watching some show, and my grandpa Bunny reminded me, he's like, that's called being comfortable with people. Like even though we've been gone 20 years, my grandpa Bunny is still our family, and he's still Ada's grandpa and like my grandpa, and like I thought that was funny because like no matter how, like I mean, even if you spend 20 years away, and then I walked into the living room like an hour later, I was in my room doing something, and I walk out there and Ada and my grandpa Bunny are asleep on the couch, dead asleep on the couch, and they're just chilling, and they're that comfortable with each other, and I thought that was funny that he said that.
So
Yeah.
let's, oh, go ahead.
What he was talking about too was that they say that my mother, Lorene Warden, could walk into a room and you could feel her presence just because of who she was, and she wasn't aware of that. And but that what she had, I'm sure there were other mothers and fathers that had that same power. When they walked into a room, there was a sense of comfort. There was a sense of being safe. There was a sense of being Wichita. That was an inherent feeling that they all had at one time. And just like we have lost our language, our dance, our culture, we've also lost that inherent power that we all used to have. I may have that power. You mentioned it in saying that blessings and that maybe I can give blessings. Well, you can, It's just that you have to recognize that you have strength and power, that one of your responsibilities is to take care of people. You have to take care of people and always tell them that you love them. And so, but in some instances, like at Rock Springs and my mother, a lot of times she didn't have to say anything. And I grew up not being aware. And then just think if she could had that, what did its kid I have my great grandmother? What kind of power did she have? Born in 1876. Are you kidding me? She had strength and power that was unbelievable. But she exhibited that power in taking care of the family and growing gardens of corn and just doing everything for her family. Her husband, Edgar Hendricks, died a long time before she did, so she was the sole great-grandparent provider, and she did a great job for that. Died in 1957, and they say she was 60 or 70 or 80 years old. Those people that were born in 1867, they don't know if they were born in 1867. And so a lot of our elders, we don't know how old they were when they died. All we know is what they gave us while they were living.
Yeah, I was also going to say something about Rock Springs, the cemetery. You can see people who were born in Waco in prior to 1859 August, and then passed away here in Anadarko. So that's really it's a history book. Just walking over to the cemetery, But I was going to say something about my grandma Lorene also. She told me a story. It's interesting. I was like 21. She's telling me stories out of the Marine Corps. I lived with her for about a year, which is an incredible investment. I get to live with her for a year, and so just sitting with her I worked daily, but came home in the afternoon, and then just sit down with a pen and a paper, and ask her. A lot of Wichita I learned as a kid, just it's normal. Hatto, don't do that, what, and I asked Gary McAdams. There are words that I don't know. Is it Wichita or is this just a pan-Indian word? I just don't know, Walter Lamar said pan-Indian, but and so I asked Gary McAdams one day. I said, "What is this word?" I'm almost most probably Wichita's today are shy to say words. Sometimes that would be a normal linguistic barrier wall or whatever. But I said that there's a word that's in my head. There are a lot of words in my head I'm never in 30 or 40 years. I'm not in any place where I can speak Wichita to someone, so I don't know. But I asked Gary, there's a word, unwa, so it's somebody walks in, a child walks into a room with a silly hat on their head, and then one of the adults would say, unwa, and so I asked Gary, what is that Wichita? What is that? I know what it means. And he said, there are some words that are Wichita, which are broad, which are maybe Kichai, Waco, Tawakoni, and Wichita, all these, this is the Wichita language, but there are also words, he said, that are like family words that some families would say, like that word. He said, that's your family, it's familiar to your family, but maybe not the other part of the tribe. But I also asked my grandma to tell me stories, and she said, she remembered, so she was born in 1919, and she remembered going from Gracemont to Rock Springs in a wagon, and she had some kind of a hat on that had tassels, strings, and she remembered being like 5 or 6, so 1919, 1925, and she's chewing on the strings. That was her memory. She was chewing on the strings. And so I thought, wow, my grandma was riding in a wagon, At home, they're probably, at that point, just speaking Wichita every day. There would be no reason. I'm a missionary. I speak Tagalog, the language of Filipino people. So if there's an American or a foreigner present, they speak English, but at home, they're just speaking Tagalog, the language. And so it would be, I'm certain that they're not really speaking English in Gracemont at the house in 1925. But fast forward to living with my grandma, we Gitsia, cat, dog, gawada, wakats, horse, cow, hitaka, way hitaka, you're hearing all these words as a kid, hikwats, tomato, gahits, salt, every little word that you can imagine, you're learning those things as a young person. And then I've shared all those things. Why is it so funny? I shared all those things with Cannon. Everything that I know that's Wichita, he knows. My 3 daughters.
You forgot one word.
Silly.
It's taboo.
You can cut this out, but he's ooh, so silly. But so sitting down in 1986 with my grandma in Lawton, I thought, I need to get a book and just start asking questions. How do you say this in Wichita? How do you say this in Wichita? How do you say, I already, Atskinskwatta, what time is it? I'd learned anything small, all those little small phrases. But so I thought the most important thing that I would want to know when being Wichita as a kid, you're learning Wichita words. You're not trying to learn. They're just words in the air around you. But at 22, living with my grandma, I thought, I'll just start asking her how to say things. And so the first thing I said was, how do you say, I love you, Grandma, in Wichita? And then she's kind of a very humble and kind of quiet sometimes. But it was funny. I don't even know what's the English word for the way she smiled, but she kind of smiled to the side, like I felt like she was saying, I don't want to say that, like that's about me, It's kind of maybe a Wichita thing. I don't want to be talking about me. I love you. That's about me. Now I have to teach you how to say you love me. That's not prideful, but something going that direction. So she smiled that way, and then she said, Tatara Okash, I love you, Aka, grandparent. It's male or female, grandparent. So if you're learning from an app or a written text, it's hard to see someone's mouth. And so I said again, how do you say I love you, Grandma? Say it again. Tatara Okash Aka. Can you say it again? Tatara Okash Aka. And so the thing that, if there's any pain in the world for me, it's that those people, I can ask my dad some things, but people in that generation who were born in 1919 or 1876, those people are gone. And so that is a thing that is really gone. But I want to help the tribe. I want to be a big part of helping in those ways with our language and just many other ways.
And I mentioned about community and relationships, and can you kind of talk about that more and how that's been missed? Because I think that's something that I'm feeling like through COVID and stuff like that. Just you're always just worried about COVID and the business and all this stuff that's coming on top. But why are those things important within our tribe to make sure that we build those?
Community. Yeah, it is, and sort of touched on it that we, not being close together, we lose what you call intimacy. We're not intimate anymore like we used to be. And intimate today has a lot of different meanings, but in the way that I'm referring to, is just being ultra close to somebody, being ultra close to another Wichita, to the point that, and we did this last night and the night before, when people walk up and put their hand on your shoulder and talk to you, that's close. It's good to see you. Gladys Williams, it's so good to see you. And when she put her hand on my shoulder, it reminded me of her brother, Stratford Williams, who was our president at one time, telling me that they considered me their big brother. And that comes from my mom knowing their mom and knowing their dad. And that's something that's inherent. Again, it's a power that we have. But it's still there. When Gladys, babe, nickname, walks up and put her hand on my shoulder, I don't know it at that particular time, but she's sending a message through my body to say, it's really good to see you. It's good to see you. And it takes us back to Rock Springs when she was 16 and I was 17. And she was, that was, you can't get any closer than that. Because here we are, she's 16 then, that's 65 years ago. And what she's doing is she's bringing back something that nobody else can do with a touch like that. Yeah, we miss that. We miss that. And the community is something that helps you accept others. I mean, I'm not perfect. He's not perfect. So it's like being married, for better or for worse. Once you accept something, or once you become a member of the tribe, then you accept everything. Don't tell me what the problem is. Tell me how to fix it. Help me. That's what we are. That's who we used to be. When there were 400 grass houses up on the Kansas-Oklahoma border, they had people that were responsible of getting everybody together and agreeing. Yeah, that many people. There were a lot of people that disagreed with things, but we existed. We became a community. Uh, uh, I accept a lot of things. Both of my brothers are gone, and they weren't perfect, but I love them forever. One was 9 years younger than me. The other one was 5 years younger than me. And so Ernie Ross and Dennis Ross. And we, it's just that the power of family, of community, of everything is so important. And that's like, the pandemic, it just amplified all that we don't, what happened? Where'd it go? And Betty Jo Rowan, I saw her at our annual meeting, and we talked about whatever happened to Nona Pumley, whatever happened to, they're 84 years old, and they could tell me, because I'm not here in the midst of family. They're here, and they know by word of mouth what happened. That's probably one of the biggest things, or can be or was, of being a tribe and being together, is that everybody knew what was going on to a certain degree, and everybody accepted it, because then you had to, because how could you live? How could you drop from 20,000 to 2,000? We were in 1984. We had 2,500 people or something like that, and people were saying, "Where did everybody go?" And we've grown since then. But we've lost we lost most of our full bloods, but we have not lost the spirit of full bloods. You can see it here in my son and grandson. I told Cannon that there's 1/4 of Wichitas that are more Wichita than full blood Wichitas, because it doesn't matter the degree of blood. It matters how much Wichita blood you have in your heart, and he has that in his heart. He has that in his heart. Right now, all my grandkids and nieces and nephews are Wichita in their heart, and it's just refreshing, And when we see each other, it's just like we're happy to see each other. That's the way it should be. And so, yeah, community is something that we can't live without. That we need to grab again and make it grow. So yeah, it's important. It's important.
I was going to say something about my grandma Thelma. Whatever's happening in a Wichita community, if you're growing up that way, you're not aware that the other part of the world around you in Oklahoma or the United States, you're not aware how they think about family, the structure of aunts and uncles and great aunts and all these other second cousins, third cousins, whatever. When I think about my grandma Thelma, I didn't realize until I grew up and heard other people talk about their families. I never thought that my grandma Thelma wasn't my grandma. She was just my grandma, So if I went to someone else would say, and the way I felt about my grandma Thelma and my grandpa June, there were other people. I just don't know if the rest of the world is thinking, I love this person, go give your grandma Thelma a hug, Then when I got into the rest of the world around me as an adult, I realized, those other people don't really think about their sister of their grandmother as their grandmother, they have another word for that. But I never even knew that, and so those are also things about community and family that I'm sharing with Cannon, that's your uncle. Wait, or someone asked me, wait, how many grandmas do you have?
Yeah.
And so it's different, and so you love those people that way, and so I'm teaching Canon, this is your Uncle Walter, this is your Uncle Gerald Miller, Grandpa Walter, this is your Grandpa Gerald Miller, and so, and then even though we've been gone a really long time, spending time with Gerald Miller a lot lately, he's okay, nephew. He's texting me, nephew. For me, and so once we know who's your dad is Bunny, and this is your grandma's Laureen. Then it's like okay. And I think that's so special. It seems like that's the thing that I think you can't really take that away as long as, and this is important, as long as each generation is communicating that with their children. That. Because if that didn't happen, then yeah, that we could lose that also. But I think as Wichita's, I think we're doing that. Well, at some point, I wanted to talk about. Did you want to say anything? Anything?
There's something that happened just 20 minutes ago with Stuart. I didn't know Nikki. I didn't know her, and I said, Stuart and I grew up together. He was in Verdun, and I was in Gracemont. My sister, Anita Faye Ross, is named after his mother, Faye Owens. I said, we're so connected. And it has to do a lot with names, and I said, but some of the people I grew up with was, I said, Tony Owens used to date Margie Davis. And only me and Stuart and a few other people know that, but Margie was a beautiful girl, and so was Peggy Jo Punley. Peggy Jo Punley and Margie Davis used to run around together. Mm-hmm. They used to ride horses. Their dad, Arthur, had horses, and we all had horses at one time. Mm-hmm. But I would look at those girls, and they were both beautiful girls. And me and my cousin, Bad Wolf, would talk about this. They said, Gerald Collins, Bad Wolf, would say, yeah, he said, those were beautiful girls. He said, but I couldn't date them. Because of our relationships, they were considered cousins. And so, I mean, they told me that Peggy Jo Punley is still beautiful to this day. And when we saw Margie 6 months ago, how she was still a beautiful woman at 79 years old, however old she was. So that connection that we have, relationships, is good and bad. I mean, there were a lot of things. If you were doing something wrong, your aunt would always say, "Don't you do that? Don't you go near that girl or near that family, because that's taboo. You can't do that." So I don't think we have that today, and I don't think we have that close relationship anymore. I don't think that Arthur Punley and his family and all his kids, Rock Springs. I mean, that was quite a deal. So yeah, these all overlap, and to the point that relationships, language, dialects change. Songs that they sang 50 years ago, there's different words to them. Sometimes they're said in a different way. Which is Waco. You look up Waco, and they say, being Waco is, what language did they speak? The Waco spoke a dialect of Wichita. Well, just exactly, what's textbooks that we can go to and say, oh, here's the Waco textbook, and here's the Wichita textbook, and here's the Keachai. Let's see which is the same. Well, languages grow. They grow, and they're never the same. And so when someone tells you, no, that's not the way to say that, that's the way they used to say it. But now we're living in a new age, if you want to call it a new age, and that this is the way we do it now. You have control over what's going on, and with control, you have the responsibility of teaching others.
Mhm. Yeah, I think even Lori, my cousin, she said, "Do you know how to count in Wichita?" I'm older than her; she's younger, but we're close from kids. But she said, "Can you count in Wichita?" And I said, "Don't know." And then she texts me some spellings. That's the other problem with Wichita is international phonetic spelling is the only option, or just this is how I would spell it. That's a challenge. But she sent me 1 through 10, and so with an audio, she recorded it and then sent that to me. And then I looked on the app, and they're pronounced a little different. But I speak several languages because I speak Spanish, I speak Tagalog, I speak English, and then some the Wichita that I know. But I listen to those words. The way you learn language is just really just if you can't have immersion, then it's just repetitive. But I looked at the spellings a little bit, but I just listened to her audio recording, Chesh Wedstout Squeets, and then just repeat that over, Chesh Wedstout Squeets, and I'm telling my son also in the car, say it, Chesh Wedstout Squeets, say Hikwat, say Gahits, say these words, and so that's the way we learn, everything that we know we need to be teaching our children, because that's the way I was taught. And
And a big part of that is respect.
yes, it is.
Yeah.
What you were saying earlier, Grandpa, about like being connected with names and stuff, like my older sister Honor is also Walkett's after your great grandmother. I don't know how many greats that is for me, and then also when we were at Falls Creek, Indian Falls Creek, at the camp, I got to meet my cousin No Walkett's,
Ruby's daughter.
Right.
Right.
And I thought that was so cool, like having like three people I know of that are all named after your great grandmother, and that's just insane to think about, like the being connected that way.
Yeah, and I think it's important. I just don't know if the rest of the world really knows, and I'm learning the last 2 years being in Waco, doing the work. A lot of people don't really realize that Indians, are here, and they don't. But I think also people think it's some far away millennial, whatever. It's just my dad's grandparents, Ruby Hendricks and Dennis Warden, and their parents. The parents of the grandparents of Ruby Hendricks and Dennis Warden were from Waco before removal. 5-year-old children who maybe they walked from Waco to Anadarko in August. It's August, it's hot, of 1859, and then those 5-year-old kids grew up to be maybe 20 and became married and had a child, Walkett. That's how close that is. That's not far, that's so close. And their language is Wichita, or Kirikirish Tatak, I am Wichita, Kirikirish Wiko Tatak, I am Waco, they're that's their language, and so it's so important for us. We're that's such a responsibility, that we need to teach our children, and at some level it's important for the world around us to know, that has value about who we are,
Yeah, getting back to 1859, Derek has some experience with that, but I was talking to my cousin Dennis Warden, and we talk about everything. He's 87, so he knows so much. He has 7 years knowledge that I don't have, and we were talking about 1859 whenever the Wacos were moved out of Waco to Anadarko. Like, how many were there? I mean, there were Comanches and Apaches and Wichitas that came out of the reserve, but the Wacos lived there. And how many Wacos were they? And were there Wacos here? I mean, we don't know. I mean, so I was talking to my cousin Dennis Warden, and he said, "Yeah, that's really interesting." I said, "Derek went to Texas Rangers. Rangers were responsible for moving the Wacos to Anadarko." So I was talking to Dennis about it, and I said, "You know, I haven't thought about this before, but how did they move them from Waco to Anadarko?" And he said, "All they had was wagons and horses." He said, "That's how they moved them." And I said, "Well, I never thought about that. You know, I didn't. I don't know what I was thinking. Greyhound bus or what? You know." But the point is that when Derek went to the Texas Ranger Museum and said, "What can you tell me about the removal of Wacos to Anadarko?"
Crickets.
Yeah.
Nothing. They don't have nothing. You don't have anything? No. And I said, "Well, no, what that is that they don't want to admit that they moved people from their home to another home." And it's just funny, you know, when we were down there in 2014, and when they what did they do? They
Helen Taylor Museum.
yeah, Helen
Helen Taylor.
Museum. They rededicated a monument. The owner showed up. She showed up, and she was like 92 or 95, and she said, "Yeah, I remember." She's white, and she said, "Yeah, I remember. I was here." And she said, I had a girlfriend, and I think she was talking like 10, 9, that I used to play with. And one day I came home, and my mother says, "What are you wearing?" And she said, "Me and my girlfriend, Wichita Waco girlfriend, changed clothes, exchanged dresses." And she was wearing Wichita clothing, and which kind of tells you she's talking about 60 or 70 years earlier, from 2014, which takes you back to 1925. I don't know the mathematics, but she and this Wichita girl, Waco girl, were friends, and they lived nearby. And she said, "Yeah, there was a creek over here." Do you remember her telling the story about how that Waco's 60, 70, 80 years ago were an integral part of Waco? And so our next question was, well, they probably lived there 50 years before that, right? Yeah, that could be. Well, what if they lost one Wichita a year? That'd be 50 Wichitas. Yeah. Where did they bury them? That's the big question. I mean, we're going through that now. People are rediscovering burials. And so how many Wacos are buried in Waco? And how many said, "I'm not going to Anadarko. Let's go down on the South 40 and let's hide. And when this blows over, we can assimilate back into the Waco society." There's so many things that could have happened. We don't know happened, but a bunch of Wacos showed up here one day in wagons out here. It's crazy, but when you talk about the logistics, when you talk about the people, when you talk about the time, when you talk about summer, the heat. My great grandmother Watkins being born 10 or 15 years after they arrive, you know, what if she had been born before then? Would she not have even showed up? And would we not even be here? It's crazy, you know, how one person's life affects everybody, you know. And that's what we're doing today, really. And that's why we're having these dances, is that we can recall and remember who we are and re-identify and put their hand on their shoulder again. Really important, really important.
So let's still have our dances starting here in a little bit. So let's talk about the three things. If you were to leave, if there was something that you wanted Wichita's to know that you've learned or that you remember, to carry on in the future so that we don't forget who we are in this community and relationships, and or even just something that you learned, what would those three things be? And I want to start with Cannon first, and then we'll end with you. And then also, when you give those three things, what's something that you see for the future to get, so that we can continue things on? And I know you want to talk about Waco, but what would that be? Something.
I think there's a lot of things that we could remember all together that are important for us to remember, but I'm not living here in Anadarko, so I'm not in this community of people who get to be family together and celebrate together and just have life together. So I'm not here for that. But something that everyone needs to remember is that we are still here, because we were telling you at the beginning when we started that we got to go tour the Wichita facility that they're working on with what's the name in the company name.
Quipper.
Or
Ascani.
You can
Ascani.
start over.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was saying with Ascani, just seeing getting to tour what they're working on and stuff, people, we need to remember that that needs to be I don't think going to listening to that in the meeting and stuff, I don't think I realized what that meant. I was just oh, cool, we have some businesses, but that's a way bigger deal. I mean, I know everyone doesn't have the chance to go and see that in person, but me getting to see that with my dad, that just really opened up my eyes to how important, I mean, I know that the Wichita tribe is important. That's a big part of my life, but getting to see that people in Waco think that I mean, they're what's Waco? And they're I don't know, Baylor football or something. They don't know anything. I mean, they really don't. They're so, I mean, they're just not aware. I mean, they've never been taught that or something. It's not in schools. That's what my dad wants to do too, is teach that in schools. But I think something we can remember is that we're still here, and we need to remember that and how strong we are. My grandpa Bunny was saying how strong we are in that community, but also remember that that we we're not even though we're only 3,500 something, that doesn't mean we're gone. I mean, we're with you, President Parton, you're doing so much for the tribe, and that we have the opportunity to do that. That should be a blessing. We should remember that that's a blessing, that we can, even after all these things that happen, being moved from Waco, Texas to Anadarko, that we can have the opportunity to work like that and get those opportunities. We should remember that's a blessing from God. That, I mean, that's the only person who's doing. I mean, you're helping a lot, and then, I mean, as a leader, but God is the one who's set those. I mean, we work hard, but with what God gives us, but it's really God who's blessed us with that. 3,500 people is not a lot of people, but it doesn't mean we're gone. I mean, that's just the beginning. I mean, it's just the beginning of something new. But yeah, we need to remember that. That's not three things, but it's one thing, kind of. But I don't know.
That's really important because earlier you said I get blessings, but I don't realize that I can give blessings, and that's you've reached that point, which is really good. You can have the same power that my mom had.
Yeah.
Influence. You can influence people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're all doing. That's what Derek's doing.
Even with my photography, like I think.
Oh, your photography.
I can really. I'm not joking. Like that, I think is something I can bless the tribe with. Like, I don't think I'm the best photographer, but I think as a Wichita tribal member, that's really important for me. I think that's really important. Even though I spent 20 years in the Philippines, I kind of lost that opportunity to be with the tribe. Sorry. That I can give that back to the tribe, because you're always saying at the meetings and stuff, like all the interns and stuff, and when you go to Oklahoma City, you go to OU or go to a university, that you come back and serve your tribe. Like I really want to do that for my tribe. Like it's really important to me. But yeah, giving back to the tribe, being blessed, getting to be Wichita, that's a blessing. I've been blessed. I already got that. So that's one thing, but giving back and being a blessing to my grandpa Bunny, to my dad, to you, and to the rest of the tribe.
So I think maybe you should buy us lunch.
What?
That's Indian humor. You want to be a blessing? You cut that out. I was going to say something. I have a bunch of cousins. So I can't say whose name, but one of my cousins. Actually, let me back up. I'm working in Waco for about 2 years, a little more, in every place in the community, in the faith community, in the business community, and historic entities, education. There are 3 colleges, and not just Baylor, but there are 3 colleges in Waco. So I'm and actually for 20 years in the Philippines is exactly what I did in the Philippines. So I have 20 years of experience, great experience, that now I'm just trying to apply to my Wichita-ness and opportunities, But I'm still concerned about Philippines and what I'm doing there. But I'm using my experience. But so when I was first in Waco, one of the people in the Waco community asked me if I was going to tell people one thing about Wichita, what would that thing be? And so basically I just sent a text to Marvin, Delaware, Babe, Walker, Williams, different people, Uncle Gerald, just different people. What would be one thing that you would say is something that we can say we are this, And I didn't say to anybody, I'm texting all these people, I just said, what is one thing that you would say? And so Marvin didn't know that I text Gerald didn't know I text Babe, Walker, Williams. And everybody responded the same exact thing, everyone. 5 or 10 people, I can't remember. But the one thing was, the very first thing that came back on the text for every person was resilience. We're resilient. Mm-hmm. And it's so, to hear the drums last night, I mean, it's been, I'm 59, 40 years really since this week, hearing the drums, so moving, so important, to see that's our culture, and we're still here. It's 1,100 years, and we're still playing drums. We get to hear that, So resilience. The thing that I spoke with one of my cousins, so if there was 300 Wacos that made it out, to Anadarko, and 500, I've seen resources that have those numbers. each one of those tribes is 200, 300, 500. They're small numbers, in the middle of the 1800s, there were very small numbers. And so one of my cousins said, could have said to me or whoever, if you waste your life, I'm so Filipino, the Tagalog word is coming into my head. The word is sayang. What a waste, you lived through, the seed of your life came through these people who were remnants in the middle of the 1800s. They were remnants, and just a few hundred people, and then you're not going to value your life. You're not going to use your life to impact other people and educate other people in the tribe, other Wichitas. That cannot be. That cannot be. So if I was really saying three things or whatever, those things, that's the one thing that I would say is, and I feel so terrible. I can't even tell you. I've given 20 years of my life and learned a completely whole another language, but I haven't been, in my Wichita place here, but I'm serving God, and it has value, so I know for God in eternity that has value, but I have a couple of years now in Waco, Anadarko. I have a couple of years left.
A couple of years left. You need to chill out.
But
You're gonna be 91, just like
91.
Grandpa Bunny.
101.
101. Sorry.
Sounds cool. 101. But I have 2 years in Waco, and I have some limited time, whatever God gives me in the future, and so I know what I'm capable of, and I know what I've done in the past, and so I'm going to do those things for the tribe. This is the last thing. 800 AD. We're on the map. This part of the world. In 1541, we're encountered by the French and the Spanish. In 1859, we're removed. I found out recently that in 1935, a core group of people who were native to Anadarko at that point, Kiowa, Wichita, some other people, in 1935. In 1935, the American Indian Exposition Board was formed, and in 1935, Dennis Warden, the grandfather and the husband of Ruby Hendricks, my dad's grandparents, the parents of my grandma Lorene. Dennis Warden was one of the founding members of the board for the American Indian Exposition. I just found that out. I saw a newspaper clipping from 1935, read that article, saw Dennis Warden on there. I thought, wow, that is so great. And my dad has accomplished so much. There's no way that I could possibly do I'd have to have 91 years. I'd have to live a long time to do the things that my dad has done. But I love him so much, and I know I'm made from him, and I know that if God gives me time, I can do more things. But looking at that, when I saw that article, I thought, wow, my dad has done so much. Dennis Warden did something in 1935. It's purposed that I should be doing things. And like my cousin said, if I don't do those things, it doesn't even matter if we made it this far from 800 AD in resilience. That means nothing if we don't execute those opportunities. And so we really have to do that. So that would be the last thing that I would say to anybody listening, that if you're Wichita, or anybody in the world, but if you're Wichita, we really need to, especially young people, someone I see all these interns at the tribe, 16, 17, 18, 19, however old they are, what they know about Wichita and the way they're serving the food distribution, or, all those different areas of seniors and different things within education. Those people need to, we really need to see God use those young people and adults, but young people especially, in the tribe. And so I want to be a catalyst for that particular part of our future. Like Cannon said, the things that the tribe is doing through Ascani and Quivera and all that, it's just amazing to see that, 800 AD, 1541, our population, and we're at Tinker Air Force Base in Fort Sill. That is incredible. Makes me so proud. I think everybody who's Wichita needs to know what the tribe is doing today, contemporary Native now, what we're doing today. They need to see those things. They need to know about those things, so they can say, "Wow, Wichita." That's actually Mike introduced us to some people at Tinker, and he said, "What is the word he used?" We're Wichita, but he said, "This is like whatever the stockholders or something like, we're not technically stockholders, but if that's our company, And when he introduced this is their company, And I thought, wow, feels so great, to say that's my company, Wichita. We're doing these great things at Tinker and Fort Sill and Indian Health Services. It's really, really great. So yeah, I just want to share that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so all these things overlap, and that strength and power, responsibility to go on. You don't think about what you've done, you just think about what you can do. That's what you do, So it's all important how we respect who we are, how we go back into our history, and look at all my 8 grandfathers and grandmothers were all full-blood Wichitas. To go back and look at them and see what they did, or what is there that's left of them, and what is of all of them that made me and is making us today. And I think that we're a prayerful, spiritual tribe, that we are being guided. When I get up in the morning and pray to Kinnicasus, our mythical God, I know He answers my prayers, and I know that's why I'm here today, is because He knows that I'm still needed, and that there's still a lot of things I can do, and I just want to, be here. I'm 1859. I graduated in 1959 from Graceville High School, 100 years later. And I thought one time, 100 years later, what if I hadn't come over with that group in 1859? You guys wouldn't be here. There were a lot of people that wouldn't be here. So how many people did we leave behind in Waco? How many people did we lose after arriving here from Waco? We have a lot of responsibility. And I keep thinking about those 400 grass houses, and we're down to one. We're down to one. That's a kind of stretching it, but it's true. Newton built grass houses. Jiggs is building grass houses. It's still possible. Let's build 400 grass houses.
Let's do it.
But that's
with central air.
But that's important. Our spirituality, our family, our history. Go back and look at it. Our young people. We need to instill in them more about what we should do, and not forget about those people in between, the 80-year-olds, the 18-year-olds. What about those that are 30 and 40? You know. But I hope you all enjoyed our conversations, but we could go on. I could have brought more people with me. That
I think we should continue this, so I think we should have more of these, but and we will. And if you want to know, I've been crying. Your grandma had a lot of power. Your mom had a lot of power, because it's one of my first memories about working here. Ira reminded me this morning. He's my boss. Ira is my boss. That's what we call him. But when I first started working here, I was a water technician. I got moved to enrollment. And when I got moved to enrollment, I remember going through all the burial. I was looking for something, and I seen your mom's name in there. And I literally remember I had tears in my eyes, because I didn't know she had passed away.
Yeah.
And then when you're talking, Anita was very close to me when I was young. She would always take us to town after church and buy us candy and pop.
Yeah, that's Anita.
Like that. But I was telling them, and when Jean passed away, there's not a lot of people I do this with, but I remember when Larissa had messaged me, there was no doubt I was not going to the hospital. I was at a meeting in Oklahoma City. I said I'll be there just in a few minutes and stuff. But I remember, and I think it was you that called me. Somebody, I don't remember who called me, but I remember I was driving through Burden, and Anita was in the hospital about to pass away, and I said I'm coming. It wasn't even a extra thought or anything, and I was there. So that's why I was crying all because I started thinking about those things.
Yeah.
And anyway, I just wanted to say that. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you guys.